In there, just a few more minutes. Anne, would you please come up? Anne Huynh, she's from S3i. She's a member of Global Chamber based in the Washington, D.C. area. She's here to talk about Vietnam, which is one of those countries that is a growing presence, not just in semiconductor, but across industries. So Anne, thank you for coming, and we look forward to hearing more.
Thanks, Doug, so much. And good afternoon, everyone. Good morning in Vietnam now. And then because I'm based in Washington, D.C., the East Coast, so my stomach start kick in. We have dinner time there, right? I will try to squeeze everything within 10 minutes as the agenda, because I also want to respect our following speakers. This morning I did the treadmill workout more so that I can run faster, because I do feel that we are in a running contest, right? We have the representatives from different countries and we talk about the same thing. So my name is Anne Huynh. I'm from S3i. We advise import-export, supply chain management, and foreign direct investment between US and ASEAN countries, and more specifically, Vietnam. And S3 means smart, secure, so that you can sustain your business. And of course, it's semiconductor as well. So I'm going to share with you about Vietnam semiconductor update and some opportunities that as an investor you can realize after my presentation. So do you recognize this gentleman in with the side, welcome to Vietnam? Yes, he has just turned into, Bloomberg just named him the number 21 richest man in the world, thanks to the NVIDIA's stock market values. So this is his trip last November when he came to Vietnam, and then he decided to invest into Vietnam. So if you want to get rich as him, maybe you should consider to Vietnam. You're going to become a billionaire one day. And before I move on with my next slide, I also want to say thank you and introduce the representatives of Vietnamese government, the Ministry of Planning and Investment in Washington, D.C. Her name is Van Lê. She's joining online. And another representative for Vietnamese Technology and Science Ministry from Houston, Texas. So you can see that the whole Vietnamese government based in U.S. are trying to connect and provide you more information. So this is the map of Vietnam. Who recognized the flag of Vietnam here? Thank you so much. Yes, this is Vietnamese flags next to US flag, but this is not bilateral. It is global, right? So this is the map of Vietnam in, again, the S shape. Maybe that's a signal of semiconductor future. Right? Do you see the densities here? So this is the map of industrial parks and industrial zones in Vietnam. So you can see the density where all the infrastructure, land, all the supporting infrastructure are available to welcome the investor to set up factories there. So you don't have to worry about electricity, water supply, or waste water treatment, or anything else. You have them on there. So let's have a look at this video. I just want to show you very quickly, and then you can entertain a little bit. Yes, click here.
Vietnam's economy was one of the best performing in Southeast Asia this year, with the GDP growing at the fastest pace in 25 years.
Vietnam's economy jumped by 8% this year.
The research firm expects the Philippine economy, along with Vietnam, to grow fastest among Southeast Asian economies in 2023.
As the world's economy continues to shift, Vietnam has emerged as a key player in Asia's economic growth story. Over the past few decades, this Southeast Asian nation has undergone an incredible transformation from a war-torn country to a thriving economic powerhouse. With a population of nearly 100 million people and a rapidly expanding middle class, Vietnam is poised to become one of the most dynamic economies in the region. The IMF has recently revised Vietnam's economic growth prediction for 2022 and has increased it from 6 to 7%. This was the only big upward adjustment among Asian countries, and it was far greater than revisions for other important regional economies. including India, Japan, and China, which decreased by between 0.7 and 1.1%. In a similar way, the World Bank increased its forecast for Vietnam's economic growth from 5.3% to 7.2%, which is the highest rate for any East or Southeast Asian country. While this came as a shock to many, anybody keeping up with the economy of Vietnam over the last several decades would have seen it coming. Vietnam has gone from having one of the world's lowest economies to having one of the fastest expanding ones, with the help of the escalating great power conflict between China and the United States. When the United States withdrew its
So that's the past. Forget about the past, right? Now we are in the moment with the present, and then with the relationship, wonderful relationship between US and Vietnam that I will share later. So this is the history about Vietnam Semiconductor. You may be surprised that Vietnam also started the research of semiconductors since 1962, when I was not born yet. So you see the timeline. So they started back in the old days, and then they even set up their first factories to export semiconductor to the Eastern Europe in 1979. Unfortunately, the factory had to shut down after that, maybe because of different regions, and it's not easy to commercialize any kind of chips, only the potato chips can be commercialized, right? Not the semiconductor back then. So in 1990s, Vietnam shut down the factory, but recently these are two most exciting and pretty proud for the Vietnamese government and Vietnamese people in Vietnam, because they are the two local brands who are able to manufacture chip, Viettel and FPT. So it is called they are proud to call made in Vietnam chip. And I was proud also because I also named my teenager Annie Chip. So it's like I can claim that I also have a made in Vietnam chip, right? This is all the companies, I'm sorry, not all, but most of the companies who are operating in Vietnam. Not to mention Samsung. Samsung is one by far still one of the biggest company. And when they came into Vietnam, for sure that the supply chain management company and other subcontractors follow the big shock. So they set up the hub there. So from Ho Chi Minh City, the south of Vietnam, Da Nang in the center, and Hanoi in the north. Hanoi is the capital of Vietnam. So these are some interesting information about Vietnam too. So Vietnam ranked number 3 largest Asian exporter of semiconductor to the United States, following Malaysia and Taiwan. And interestingly, a lot of employees who are working in Malaysian factories are actually coming from Vietnam. So do you recognize this gentleman? I'm sure that you know him. He's the president and CEO of Semi-Industry Association of the United States, John, and the Minister of Ministry of Planning and Investment of Vietnam. They were both in Vietnam last year when Vietnam opened the National Innovation Center, and they also host a lot of semiconductor readiness seminar to collect the opinions and to get ready to ramp up for the investment in this industry. So from the perspective of consulting company, we will also tell you about the challenge and about some obstacle and hindrance. But because today, I don't want to do that. And I want to quote the official opinion that Vietnamese government is trying to call for investment. So 5 reasons why the investors should consider Vietnam as a destination for semiconductor manufacturing or even just R&D or packaging. First,